Hi everyone, it's John from Jesus Flicks, and today I am reviewing Big George Foreman from Affirm Films. Big George Foreman, the miraculous story of the once and future heavyweight champion of the world. It's rated PG-13 and runs 2 hours and 9 minutes. It stars Khris Davis as George Foreman, Jasmine Mathews as Mary Joan, Sullivan Jones as Muhammad Ali, Lawrence Gillard Jr. as Archie Moore, John Magaro as Desmond, Sonia Sohn as Nancy Foreman, Forrest Whitaker as Doc Brodus, and Erica Tazel as Mary Foreman. And it's directed by George Tillman Jr. Here's a quick synopsis. Following the remarkable life and times of Foreman, from Olympic gold medalist to world heavyweight champion, from the Rumble in the Jungle fight with Muhammad Ali in Zaire to finding his faith, retiring, and becoming a preacher. When financial hardship hits his family and church, he steps back into the ring and regains the championship at age 45, becoming the oldest heavyweight champion in boxing history. I got the opportunity to see this in the theater, and so I'm very thankful for that. I did use my own funds, so this is not sponsored in any way by through any kind of influencer campaign or anything like that. This was 100% a movie that I paid for on my own. So I just wanted to mention that up front as we get into the review. As you all know, I typically use a format where I talk about the story, the character, the themes, and the quality of the film, and then I look for the main spiritual element that I got out of the film. So let's start with the story. Well, it is a true story. Well, it's based on a true story, George Foreman's true story. And one of the things that I really liked about the way this was put together was how they took their time to establish Foreman's character. And I'm going to say character because in the movie he's a character, right? We know that there are things that are left out. So we're going to use that word even though this is based on real events. To establish Foreman's character and where he was positionally related to Christ. Non-Christians aren't going to understand that, but those of us who are Christians do understand that. And so I really appreciate that they took the time to do that, develop that story, and work their way up to his point of salvation, and then not stop there. A lot of times, faith-based films, they get to the point of salvation, and then there's about 10 more minutes of movie, and that's it. He gets saved about halfway through this film, and so you've got a whole half of a movie and other dynamics with other characters and situations that are utilized throughout the film to really flesh out who Foreman was and what his life was like before Christ and after Christ. Moving on to the characters. So one thing that I will say is that they certainly portrayed the flaws of all the characters in this film. And I thought that they did it quite well. There is, before George is a Christian, he's clearly not a Christian. And they don't shy away from that. They don't shy away from the fact that his best friend in the Job Corps, he had some vices that he had to deal with. And they set that up throughout the film while he was in the Job Corps and things like that. Each character was written in a way to support the story as well as support the themes of the film as well, which we'll get into later. So before we jump into the themes, I want to talk a little bit about one of the characters that I thought should have been developed a little bit more and that is George Foreman's ex-wife. I don't feel like they spent enough time developing her in the movie, because although you saw the divorce coming, you didn't really feel, at least personally I didn't feel like it was earned. But there was no development of the character to make me feel invested and feel bad for her when the divorce happened. I really felt like that character was just there as a way to move from one portion of George's life to another portion of George's life. I think they could have spent just a little bit more time developing her out with another scene or two to make me feel like, oh man, George is really doing a crappy thing to her. Now, obviously, he was doing a crappy thing to her, but at the same time, without that emotional investment, I didn't feel like it was earned. So the biggest themes in this movie revolve around spiritual themes. Themes we see throughout the Bible: the prodigal son coming back, trusting in riches, trusting in yourself rather than trusting in God. A number of different things. One thing that I really liked throughout the movie, the biggest theme, which we'll get to, and I'll talk about a little bit more, is the fact that there was a consistent witness in George's life. And despite what was happening around him, that consistent witness of who Christ is and God's love to him was there. Now let's move on to the quality. I think this was well made. I think some of the stunts, which would be fighting scenes, some of the angles were shot and you could really tell that the punch was way off. I don't know if they used any professional boxers in the scenes. Of course, there's your typical training montage in the film. And I don't know how much training any of the actors had with any kind of boxing or any kind of fighting at all. But some of the scenes, it was a little, it didn't look as realistic as I've seen in other films. Now, granted, when I go back and look at other movies like the Rocky movies, some of those don't look as good either, because they are actors. These are people who aren't dedicated to their craft, to the craft of boxing, to the craft of fighting. And so that makes a difference. So I think overall the scenes were well done with the fighting, but every once in a while you could tell, yeah, these are actors that are fighting. I think most of the acting was good. Forrest Whitaker absolutely elevated this film with his character of Doc Broadus. I think when you have someone of Whitaker's caliber in the scenes with those people, the actors rise to the level of whoever they're in there with. I think given the current state of movies in Hollywood, that the quality of this movie was on par with regular movies that you're seeing come out of Hollywood. Okay, so let's tie this all together. Let's talk a little bit about the audience for this film, because I think it's interesting. And then let's talk about the kind of big spiritual theme here. It's Affirm Films, so their primary target audience is always going to be Christians, faith-based film goer, people who are looking for faith-based films. But I think there's a secondary audience in here of people who liked George Foreman and want to know more about George Foreman other than the fact that he used to sell those little clamshell grills, right? They don't just want to make a film that appeals to only Christians. They want to be able to draw in other Christians so that they can share the principles of the gospel with them through film and through storytelling. Again, I think there's a good story that was told here, and I think that the main spiritual theme here of being lost and then found by Christ, having that conversion, whether it is a fantastic conversion like Foreman's or just a simple, gradual coming to know who Christ is, it's the theme that we all expect from a film like this. And certainly when you watch the trailer, you know that that's where this is going, because they lay it out in the trailer. It's not that they're hiding the fact that George Foreman was a Christian and we're going to be talking about Christian themes. But maybe people are interested in Foreman and how he made that spiritual journey. I was interested to learn in the credits that Foreman and Ali used to talk to each other on the phone every night for a while before Ali passed away. I did not know that. And it took getting to the end of the movie to know that, but it was a fun and interesting tidbit. So getting back to that main theme, they show Foreman's life, warts and all, right? They show that he cheated on his first wife and that led to a divorce. They show that he had a criminal background. Maybe he didn't get caught, but he was involved in criminal activity, that he was shady. And they showed that he was self-absorbed and was only interested in money and fame and being recognized and getting his respect. And then they showed that transformation. And the interesting thing about it is there's a situation that comes up in the latter part of the movie, and Foreman's faith and principles are challenged. And he struggles with that, and they show that struggle. They don't show Foreman as this perfect Christian after he gets saved. They show the struggles of his life after becoming a Christian. And I think too often times there are movies that involve a faith element, and like I said, they get up to that salvation point, and you got about 10 more minutes, and you don't ever see them actually walk out that faith and struggle through their walk with Christ. And this movie does a good job of showing that, I think. Okay, so that's my review of Big George Foreman. It is still in the theaters, so if you want to go check it out this week. I highly recommend it. One other thing before I sign off, I just wanted to say that I've had a few people who have donated through the Buy Me a Coffee link, and I greatly appreciate that. It's because of those donations that I was actually able to go see this movie. So if you want to support this channel financially, there will be a link in the description where you can do so. And I greatly, greatly appreciate everyone who has donated. It's what helps keep this channel going and helps me pay for the movies that I go see. So until next time, I'll see you at the movies. Bye.